Okay, guys, good morning. Um, very happy to have you guys here for Divinations. And this is sort of like an analysis of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Harris's chart, who are the candidates for the vice presidency. And we have most of us are talking on from the Vedic perspective, except for Israel and possibly even Nathan, who may kind of dip in and out of Western astrology techniques. So let's begin with John. Since you've shared your screen, so for those of you who don't know John, say hello, and you know you've been practicing astrology for years and years, right? And
Uh,
you're giving us a Gemini perspective on this chart, won't you?
yeah. I am a Jaimini scholar. Pandit Sanjay Rath is my Jyotish Guruji, and I have to bow to his great knowledge, his great insight in my presentation. Everything I have learned is channeling through him and his interpretation of the Jaimini Sutras.
Lovely. So welcome, John. So go ahead.
So, good morning, everybody. What I'm going to present to you very briefly is a look at the major Jaimini connections that exist between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I'm aware of our time constraints, so excuse me if I kind of skip through the items. I'll be happy to answer any questions should we have the opportunity later. I'm going to share a screen as well a little bit, but not too much. So a very important feature of Jaimini sutras and the teaching of Jaimini Jyotish are to do with what are called the Charakaras. And we identify two planets in the chart. We identify one particular planet called the Atmakarka, which represents the soul journey of the person. And if we look at Joe and Kamala, we can see that his Atmakarka, his soul journey, the planet that represents what his soul is here to accomplish in this lifetime, is connected to Mercury. And her planet, Kamala's Atmakarka planet, is Mars. Now, interestingly enough, Mars is kind of neutral planet to Mercury, but Mercury is an enemy of Mars. But don't worry, they're going to be fine.
John, can you share the chart, please? Because we can't see anything on the screen.
Okay.
Now we can.
Okay, so I'm putting up just the D1 Rashi chart, and this is Joe Biden's chart. And we see that Mercury is in his 12th house, conjunct Mars. And there's a very interesting thing because our soul journey is all about the sun, is all about realizing the potential of our sun. The whole solar system is built around the sun, and it's all about solar consciousness. And a very interesting thing in his chart is that we have a dynamic happening here. I'm also looking at in terms of the relationship between masculine and feminine principle. Shiva Shakti. Shiva, Joe, Shakti, Kamala. So the interaction of this energy. Now they both have Venus, Sun combust. That's Venus and Sun in the same degree in their charts. In Joe's, it's in his ascendant, Scorpio, and there's a war going on there. They're so close between them, and Venus is winning that war in his life. And she has it in her D9, her Navamsha chart. She has it in her 3rd house. So, but that's showing us a karmic connection that's going on there. Also in Joe's chart, Mars and Venus are what we call parivartana yoga. They're exchanging signs. And that's making Venus very strong in his chart as well. So in a way, Venus is kind of winning a war against the sun, the soul. And Venus is Shakti. It's the feminine principle. So what we're getting here as well, the feminine principle, Shakti energy in his life is having a powerful influence, effect on him. even from the point of view of his soul, because we have Mercury is Atmakarka in a sign in Libra ruled by Venus. Now Venus, if we look at his life, the history, a brief history of his life, he's a lot of tragedy in his life. And one of the greatest tragedy was the tragic death of his daughter and his wife many years ago in a tragic car accident. He has remarried, happily, I believe. And, you know, he has a good relationship to women. And even though there's that Venus-Sun war, you know, Venus is winning. So he still wants relationship, but it's showing that, you know, relationships in his life bring conflict, stress into his life. We definitely can see that from his history. Now, moving on. Kamala's Atmakarka is also Mars. Kamalaharris, and I'll just show her chart there, and her Mars is in her second house in Cancer, and it's involved in an exchange with the moon in its sign. So there you have this kind of exchange of energies between the moon and Mars. And very interesting, if you look at her moon, it's in Aries and it's in a nakshatra, Ashwini, which is ruled by Ketu. And it's exactly the same moon that he has. So that's showing that their minds are lined up. The head-heart connection, the connection between their heads and their heart, their mind and their heart, is in alignment, which I think is very, very powerful. It says a lot about the compatibility between them in terms of how they present themselves, how they feel, how they emote, how they think. And another very interesting karmic connection that I see between their charts is that her Saturn in Aquarius is actually conjunct his Ketu in Aquarius. And that's what we call in the Jaiminin tradition a Shraddha Dosha Yoga. And it's a yoga connected to a lineage, parampara. It's a yoga, it's a dosha that's connected to being here to heal something that's to do with lineage. And usually it's connected to some disrespect that was made to ancestors, something from the past. And you know, a key theme of their political agenda is about healing a huge disrespect that was paid from one part of our humanity to another humanity, historical disrespect of the essential humanity that we have, that we share. So I find that very, very powerful, and I've looked at that. Now, I'll try and touch on it in my presentation, but just moving on. Another Jaimini tenet is what's called the Atma Character. And that's a Charakaraka. But it shows about how the mind is working. It's kind of like our mental advisor. And both their Atma Charakas is Rahu. Both of them have the same Atma Charaka. Okay, and as I said, this is the advisor. It advises us on how to govern our lives, how to sustain ourselves. Now, very, very interestingly as well, getting back to the idea of the Shakti, we can identify the sign in a person's chart that is the Shakti, their essential energy, and both of them share Scorpio. The sign Scorpio, the 8th house, the sign of transformation. Both of them have Scorpio Shakti signs. Now, as I've mentioned their mind, I've mentioned the Shraddha Dosha. Okay, another conjunction between their two charts that's fascinating is the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction between their charts. And there's Jupiter in Kamala's chart in Taurus in her 12th house of imprisonment and institutions, and there's Saturn in his 7th house of relationship, both retrograde. Okay, now, in this very year, we have a major conjunction coming up in December of Jupiter and Saturn. And that's happening in Capricorn, in his 3rd house, in her 9th house. And the 3rd house is this house of parakrama, direction, or orientation in life. And I think this is very, very significant. Now, the conjunction has already happened once. It happens 3 times. So the foundation has been set. The next conjunction doesn't happen until December, but November the 3rd is very close to that. So it effectively is happening right now. And I think it's a seismic shift in consciousness on the planet. So this mammoth battle that's been playing out politically in America, I think is a symbol of that, what's happening to consciousness on the planet. And that's what this is really about. To me, it's not about personalities that much. It's about what it's saying about our common decency, our humanity, how we live together into the future, what kind of world we want to create. You know, in the context of America, which historically is a land of hope, a land of the future. We've always identified it with being a place where people could go and re-begin, restart their lives, live the American dream. So I hope I haven't lost you. Shall I continue? Now, an interesting thing is, in a horoscope that we can identify, okay, is what's called the D point. And D means intelligence. It's a Sanskrit for intelligence. And with Jaimini, we can identify in a horoscope the particular degree in a chart that where intelligence is kind of, where is the center of intelligence, the source, the root thread of intelligence. And if we look at Joe Biden's chart, we see that his point is in Scorpio, in Anuradha Nakshatra, which is ruled by Saturn. In his 7th house in his D1, his house of relationship. So to me, that's saying his intelligence, his wisdom, because intelligence hopefully ultimately leads to wisdom. When we grow old and gray, hopefully we have wisdom. And for him, it's his 7th house. And here we are, we're looking at the dynamics of a relationship. We're looking at Shiva Shakti. Now, Camillus is in Virgo. We're looking at, excuse me, Camillus is in Virgo in her 4th house of home. Okay? Now, what's the theme of home? Our sense of place, our sense of where we belong. And this is the whole theme of this political bout that's happening in America right now. It's about one group of people saying, we belong here too. This is our place, our home. Let's speak to each other. Let's analyze Virgo. Let's discuss. Let's scrape below the surface in a Virgoan way and look at what's hidden below, what's going on down there in the deep. So it's very interesting to see that these two sources of intelligence are in this mutual dance to create a presidency and a co-presidency. And I think that that's a very powerful connection that they'll have with each other. Whether or not he becomes president and she becomes vice president, because there'll still be fallout. There'll still be gains to be made, no matter who wins.
Yeah. Thank you, John. I think that has been pretty interesting. I think when you mentioned about the Atmakarka in the 4th house, you know,
yes,
it's essentially like whether even her, because right now we were discussing before you came over that her ascendant is actually not quite Gemini. It is more likely to be Taurus.
yeah.
And but in a way, Gemini's beauty is that if we just take the Charakarkas, then we get a different picture literally evolves in a very nice manner. So I think the sign Virgo would still play an important role for her.
I think so, because it's going to be her 5th house anyway. So
yeah.
The 5th house of mantra, the mind, how her mind works.
Absolutely. And now that we have this nodal, exit from the exaltation Gemini and going into Rahu's another exaltation, Ayush exaltation of Taurus and Ketu's home sign, Scorpio. I think that it's like the often Sanjay alludes to, like, if you have Shani on your Atmakarka, you know, there are kind of soul level lessons and restrictions that you face. But here, this is beautiful because it's going into the sign of, and it's trining, you know, it'll be aspecting Rahu in Taurus, will be aspecting that Virgo sign, you know. So in a way, I think there is a lot of hope coming from here, you know. It's what it looks like.
Yes, I feel so too. I do think, and I also think that, you know, she'll surprise us. I think Kamala, we haven't really seen her yet. I think she's by kind of in the final week of October, I think we're going to make a big discovery about her, and it's going to really, you know, raise her profile in the consciousness of people in a very positive way.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. And you know, okay, over to you, Paul. Do you want me to share my screen, Paul?
Okay,
Paul?
I'm unmuted. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Listening intently. Yes, you can share your screen.
Okay.
I managed to resolve the Lagda problem.
Okay, I know. John, will you please stop sharing your screen so I can share mine, please?
Now,
Lovely. Thank you. Oops, sorry. Where am I? Okay.
The one thing I'd say about, since we're talking about the Atma Character, that Kamala Harris does have Mars Atma Character, and of course the lesson there is to pursue ahimsa, to denounce violence.
Oh,
and
totally.
in the current situation where there's a lot of turmoil on the streets of America, the lesson for her, I would have thought, would be to try and calm the situation down if she's going to, you know, fulfill the requirements of a Mars Atmakarka. So hopefully she's seeing the light and can do something positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I've shared my screen, but I want to add, you just mentioned this, Paul. She does actually, sorry, have, but Rahu is her Amatya Karaka. So that has a huge significance because it's fantastic. Rahu is Atmakaraka in the chart of politicians.
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Amatya Karaka, as in the chart of politicians, you see. So she really
And
knows.
it's strong on the Lagna as well.
Absolutely. But that is Israel. We have this contention about whether her Lagna is Gemini, as you can see.
I think it is. I think it is Gemini. You know, in terms of the description, in terms of because her Lagna is Ashwini, right? Or no?
No, her moon is.
Sorry, her moon is in Ashwini. Sorry. But her Lagna, in terms of her Lagna, you know, she comes across very, you know, she's very like intelligent and, you know, very, you know, speaks very well. You know, you can see that mercurial energy about her. So I mean, I'm, you know, I very much feel that she is a Gemini Lagna individual. The birth chart does seem to fit that. And I've also looked in terms of, even from the Western perspective, because she's Gemini rising anyway, even in Western as well, in both systems. And in terms of the transits and things of that nature, it does tend to correspond with the Gemini Lagna. So I know it's probably a little bit, it's like very early, Gemini. So I see your point that it could have been Taurus.
Okay, Israel, we'll come back to you in a minute.
No problem.
Okay, Paul, thank you. Carry on.
I was enjoying that, Israel. You carry on. Easy day for me. So, well, I'm going to take it as Taurus Lagna for the time being.
Okay.
You know, but all the preparation I did was for Gemini, so I've thrown that out the window now in the past 10 minutes.
Yes, exactly. But
So,
by Western anyway, she's Gemini Lagna, you know. I think it's a really tough call. Anyway, carry on. Over to you, Paul.
Yeah, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the political side of things. I'll come to the D5 chart in a minute. But, you know, one of the things that you look at for leaders is the Adasha Rashi, which is opposite the sign opposite the Lagna. So if we take Taurus Lagna, then outlook, if you like, is Libra, or Libra, as my friend of mine calls it, which is all about balance and equality. If we take Gemini, then it's Virgo is the Adasha Rashi. So the outlook from her would be Virgo, which is more about service for healing purposes and quite analytical and precise. So never having met this lady or really known anything about her up to a few days ago, basically, or a few weeks ago, I'm not sure how she sees the world, but you know, that's something that might be taken into consideration. I stumbled across the Kalpadruma Yoga, which is taken from Sanjay Rath's book on collected papers in Vedic astrology, and he quotes the Parasara BPHS 38.33, which talks about Kalpadruma Yoga, and it's slightly complicated, but you know, fairly straightforward. The yoga, it doesn't seem to apply to Biden or Donald Trump. It does seem with modifications to apply to her. So I'll briefly go through this. I don't want to get too deep into it, but the native born with Kalpadruma Yoga is like a mighty lord or sovereign power. The supremacy and sway hold good, is pious and merciful, yet strong and fond of battles. His wishes are granted by the celestial tree. Now, in this lady's case, kamalaharris, she seems to have it irrespective of whether we take Taurus or Gemini Lagna. So what we're looking at is, first of all, looking at four things. First is the Lagna Lord, which needs to be well positioned, preferably in a Kendra or trine. Now, actually, in this case, it puts the yes, the Venus is in the fourth house, so that's good. If we take it for Gemini, then it puts Mercury in the fifth house, which is also good.
Yeah.
We take the dispositor of the Lagna Lord. So if we're taking it as Taurus, it's the Sun, which is in the sixth, but there is the Parivartana, so it puts the Sun in its own sign, which is also one of the secondary criteria which is allowed. Not as good as being in the Kendra or quadrant, but it still qualifies. We take the dispositor of the dispositor. So that again, dispositor of Sun would be Venus, again in a Kendra. And then we have to jump into the Navamsha to see where that dispositor of the dispositor is going. So in the Navamsha, where's Venus? I can't see. It's in Scorpio.
Yeah, it's in Scorpio.
Yeah. If we were to take it for Gemini, it would I think so. Okay, it's in Scorpio, and we'll look at the lords there, bring them back to the D1. So Mars and Ketu.
Yes.
Ketu is strong in Sagittarius. Mars is by Parivartana in its Aries. So again, it fulfills the criteria. So it's not as powerful as if they were in Kendra's, all these planets with their own signs. So in Kendra's or trines, but you know, it's a modified yoga. So it does indicate that she's, you know, I don't know about a mighty lord or sovereign power, but it does indicate that she's quite a powerful leader, irrespective of whether we take Taurus or Gemini Lagna. So I'll leave that there for people to ponder over. The thing I want now to introduce is the Parivriti Panchamamsa.
Yeah, let me take you to that.
The D5, and
there it is. Can you see, Paul?
yeah, Parivriti. I mean, I'm looking at my own screen here to my right, to my left anyhow, which is why I'm looking up that way and not that way. I mean that way.
That's fine. I can see. So you're getting Capricorn Lagna.
Capricorn Lagna, yeah. Yeah, okay. So, first of all, I'll just introduce this chart. It's used for power and authority. So it's regarded as a chart specifically for politicians. Because it gives their perspective, as it were. And quite simply, how do we derive it? So the D5, we split the 30 degrees of a Rashi into 5 sections, 6 degrees each, 0 to 6, 6 to 12, 12 to 18, 18 to 24, 24 to 30. So if a planet in a movable sign, it stays in a movable sign, and then what you do is just progress it sequentially. So for Aries, 0 to 6 is Aries, 6 to 12 degrees is Taurus, 12 to 18 is Gemini, 18 to 24 Cancer, 24 to 30 is Leo. So planets in any of those degrees in a movable sign would follow that pattern. Fixed signs, you jump to the 5th from it. So Taurus starts off 0 to 6, you jump to the 5th sign from Taurus, which is Virgo. Virgo, 6 to 12 is Libra, 12 to 18 Scorpio, and so on. So it just follows in round the zodiac in simple fashion. Dual signs, you jump to the 9th house from it. So starting with Gemini, the 9th from there is Aquarius, then Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini. The next movable sign is Cancer. So you start again with 0 to 6 degrees is Cancer, 6 to 12 Leo, then Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. So it's really quite a simple chart. We're looking at planets in whichever of those 5 portions, 0 to 6, 6 to 12, 12 to 18, etc. And then looking at the sign, and you just manipulate it accordingly. So it's there for, political power. So it's not for ordinary people. It's not for us plebs. It's how much control they have over the physical world is what it's indicating. So if we look at Kamalaharris, you're really looking from 3 points of view. The 9th house from anywhere gives the fruits of that house. So the 9th from the Yehuda Lagna gives the fruits of the Lagna, because the 9th house is the 11th from the 11th.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the 9th from the Lagna, the 9th from the Yehuda Lagna, and the 9th from the Atmakarka by way of analysis. So the 9th from Lagna shows your intelligence and your advisors. So you don't want malefics in the 9th from the Lagna in the D5 chart. The D5
positive here. It's very positive. It's got Jupiter retrograde in Virgo. That's beautiful.
Yeah, the same as Trump. Actually, we could have a look at Trump. Yeah, Sanjay describes Sanjay Rath describes my guru as well, pranam to the guru, as a retrograde Saturn. Retrograde Jupiter is like a charging elephant. It's very powerful. I mean, in Trump's case, it's stationary as well, virtually stationary, so
yeah.
Extremely powerful. So if it's in a Dushtana, then it can be destructive because it's like a charging elephant that tramples over the village, which is not really what you want. But in our case, so 9th from there gives Jupiter very strong, very powerful. Retrograde may mean that there could be not perfect advice, but the advisors are good. But retrograde suggests it's powerful, but perhaps not always offering the best advice. 9th from the Atmakarka shows what will definitely fructify when in office. So the Atmakarka in her case is Mars. 9th from there takes us to the Moon, Cancer, which is the 7th house, which is about relationships, but business relationships, practical relationships as well. It's gone to the 4th house in Big Bala, so quite nice. It's conjunct Venus.
Very strong. Yeah.
So that looks a nice combination there. And 9th from the Yehuda Lagna shows the image, the vision, and the dreams that the person has. So the Yehuda Lagna is in Scorpio.
Yeah, it's given a little incorrectly here. It's in, I don't know why it's showing in Aries. But yeah, yes, you're right. It is in Scorpio.
There is a correction. There's something wrong with the Sri Jyotish star. I did ask Andrew Foss about this, and you sometimes have to reset them, but it's by design for reasons that I can't explain. But there is something there. So yeah. the ninth from Mars is so the ninth from the Ruda Lagna again is Cancer. So her vision is, I mean, the fourth house in mundane astrology represents the homeland. So I mean, she's looking, I think, for peace in the homeland would be her vision, peaceful America. So that's how you analyze things, and that you can look at the same things, planet in Marina Karkashtana and yogas and so on, to add more flavor to it. But that's essentially the three tools that you use in this D5 political chart. There are other charts that rely on segmenting the Rashi into 6-degree portions like the D30, but they're for negative things. This is meant to look at positive aspects, the strength of the person in a political context. So that's how you can differentiate.
Very strong, her D5, because Surya is also in Digbala in the 10th house, even though it's But then, would you say there would be a cancellation of that debility because the lord of the debilitated sign Libra is in Digbal, and it's aspecting in a way it's Surya and the sign, as well as the lord of exaltation of Surya, which is Mars, is also aspecting the Lagna, and in Scorpio, very strong.
Well, yes, I mean, there possibly is. I mean, these things are always a balance.
Yeah.
I think anyhow, so all things manifest. I mean, the sun is debilitated.
Yeah.
So there will be some cancellation, but the fact is, it is nevertheless debilitated. Of course, in this chart, it makes it the 8th house, the 8th lord, where there is Ketu there as well. So it's there in the 10th house, this is in Digbala, as you say, so mixed influences, I would suggest.
Yeah. But there's also Pap Kartari between, in the on the 7th house with Shani on one side and Ketu on the other. That's a very strong Pap Kartari. How would you do that? It's like...
Well, obviously the 10th house of relationships, but the Lord is in Digbala, so I mean, I wouldn't lose any great sleep over that by any means. I mean, that 8th house is some affliction with Ketu there and an aspect from Saturn. And obviously it's a Rahu Ketu axis. So 8th house of transformation, is not so positive. The Lord is debilitated. So it's perhaps not so good. But nevertheless, as you say, from a practical point of view for politics, it's I think it's quite a nice chart in many respects.
Yeah, it is very strong, and I think with the Taurus, Scorpio, the Rahu coming in, and as well as Shani and Jupiter in Lagna, or Ketu on Lagna, I think we will be seeing definitely more of our...
Oh, there's no doubt about that. If we took Gemini Lagna, if we took it at the 21-28 as per the birth certificate, then it moves it to Aquarius. So, the 9th from there would be that sun debilitated, which again gives powerful advisors, but possibly not offering the best advice. We pretty much amount to the same thing anyhow, I think. And of course, you're looking at the 9th from the Mars anyhow, which is the Atmakarka, so that doesn't change.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to draw the line there. I mean, we could look at Trump, we could look at Biden, but I think it's Kamala Harris's day, so I'll draw the line there and hand over to someone else.
Thank you. So who's going?
Can I go next?
Go ahead.
Well, my internet's still surviving because it was off this whole morning and it just got on like 10 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Uh,
lovely.
right. So, do I share my? I don't need to share my screen. Already
You've
got
got
my
your
points to say. So,
and
um,
the charts or whatever there is are already up here. Can you see the screen?
yeah, that's fine. No problem. No problem. So I'm going to start talking with Biden's chart. If you could put that up.
Okay,
And
there we go. Can you see? There are 3 different charts, so
yeah, yeah, that's fine. I'm I'm using 826 for him. So, right. So with Biden's chart, um, as you know, everyone's pointed out the Atmakarka Rahu in the 10th house.
Yes.
And I think Guruji has mentioned that Rahu in Leo is a prince. And it is the Simhasana Yoga of Surya in the Lagna,
yeah.
or maybe in the first house, does show that he's inclined towards leadership positions from a very early age because it is Lagna. He's also excelled in athletics and sports, given the Venus presence in a Mars sign. And the Sun has Drishti of Digbala Shani. So he's essentially the type of leadership that is good for the Democratic Party, because Shani is good for Shani is the Democratic Party kind of archetype. And with the Surya and Lagna, he's playing that moderate game, and he's the moderate draw card for the Democratic Party, because Shani and Surya are the conservative and the democratic sort of swing. And this parivartana between Venus and Mars is what is facilitating him getting more power. Now it's interesting that in his chart he's got the Sun Venus in Lagna and involved in an exchange, and Kamala Harris has the Sun Venus, also in exchange, and so they both of them are the Sun Venus kind of energy, which is I think a very nice counterpoint to the Mangala Rahu of their opponent from an energetic point of view. But essentially in Biden's chart, the way I see it, this 12th house, the power dynamic is being shared between the first house and the 12th house, because this Parivartana is bringing the Putra Karaka Venus into contact with the Atma Karaka Mercury. So this 12th house dynamic is always going to be there when he's going forward towards power. And the 12th house can also show losses. And that's always been the case with him. So when he was winning his seat for the US Senate in early 1973, just before that in December 72, his wife and youngest daughter, his first wife and youngest daughter, died in a violent car crash. When he launched his campaign for the presidency in 1987, shortly after that, he was treated for 2 brain aneurysms. When he was thinking of running against Trump, the rumors back in 2014, 2015, I don't know if you remember. And actually what was happening at the time was he was preparing for his eldest son, Bo, to be a candidate for the Democratic nomination in 2016. And that son died. Now you see this moon, I'm talking about the moon here because it's in the 5th house from the Gatika Lagna. It is the 6th house from the Lagna, okay? And it's basically not that well determined towards his health. And he does have a sort of the brain aneurysms. It is in Aries Rashi, okay? And the Lord is in, effectively now in Scorpio. We could say that at some point the Lagna operates as Libra, and at some point the Mangala is operating as if in Scorpio. But depends how you look at Parivartana, okay? This moon is also the Lagna Lord in the Saptamsha, and is in the 11th house, showing the Maraka of children. So his children are also negatively implicated with his moon. So the Gatika Lagna being in the Agni Rashi and Moon and Rahu both in trines to it, does show that people that are going to support him, as well as people that he's going to contest with for power, will have very strongly placed in their charts. And Kamala does have that. She has the Moon Mars Parivartana, and she also has 10th Lord Rahu exalted in the Simhasana Yoga as well. Now Trump also has a very strong Rahu because he's born at an eclipse. It's an Ayush exaltation. And he has the moon in Digbala, debilitated. So it's a very strong influence moon, but it is inclined towards the negative strong influence in his chart, which is what we're seeing play out in the collective consciousness of the USA. So whenever
Nathan, can I just reach out? Hello?
Yeah. Sorry.
You mentioned about the death of the daughter, right?
Yes.
And that was in 2006?
No. The death of his daughter happened in December 1972 with his wife, his first wife. And the death of his eldest son, he was preparing to occupy the throne. That happened in May 2015.
Right. Okay. If we see it's Jupiter. He was getting into he had got into the Jupiter dasha. If we take the Vimshottari Shema.
Yes. I'm gonna come back to this point.
Yeah, and also, can I also add to what you were saying that they both have Rahu, Amatya Karaka. And that is absolutely like bang on in terms of like the political career that they have aspired for. And also Biden has got Jupiter, Vargottama, and exalted. That's like very strong Jupiter, Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I'm going to come to the Jupiter, but that's a very good point. And just to finish this negative point about the moon, every time he's had a moon Antaradasha, as per normal nature, he's had to deal with this problematic family and health or tragedy or something happening. And he so happens to be coming to a Cancer Aries Shula Dasha commencing in August of 2021. And the Aries Narayana Dasha is starting in November 2021. So if they do win the presidency, then I would expect that whoever his VP will be taking on a more prominent role from the second half of 2021 onwards, because his health is going to go down.
Which dasha are you using other than the Narayana for him? Because there are 3 dashas that are applicable.
I've used all 3, but I've just kept comments brief for here. Yeah. But the Shula dasha, obviously I'll use that for her. So I'll just talk to him as confirmation.
Yeah.
So we can see that the Narayana dasha of Aries begins, I think, November, December 2020, depending on what settings you have in Sri Jyotisha. And that is the 8th from the Aruda Lagna as well in this chart. So using the normal Vimshottari dasha, Jupiter is the 5th lord of the chart. And Jupiter is also the lord of the Rajapada, the A5 as well. So Jupiter period is going to show prominence. And the Jupiter Mahadasha was from September 2006 to September 2022. So we're going to see that he's going to have a peak of prominence and popularity, particularly in the middle of this period. So from 2011 to 2017, because, he split the dasha into 3 parts and all that. So now he's actually in the waning part of that Jupiter period. And perhaps now you're going to see the Vakri Jupiter Phala being delivered of debilitation, where, you can see he's visibly looking much older than he was 3 years ago. And, there's a lot of, we can really feel a lot of the debilitation energy coming through there. He needs to have a young candidate with fresh energy jumping around. So speaking of the Aruda Lagna, Leo Rahu is in the Aruda Lagna 12th house. And Trump has both Leo Lagna and very strong Rahu, and therefore represents a formidable opponent through Rahu means, which is what is going on. Rahu also can indicate foreign influence, which is also a big topic in the elections. Biden himself is in a Jupiter Rahu period right now until September 22 when the Mahadasha changes. So that doesn't really speak for me, him grabbing power, given everything. It almost feels like he's, and I'll show why I think he is there at the moment, but essentially it looks like he's preparing the next person. That's basically what I see it as. So coming to Trump, so this Joe Biden, if you look at his indicators about power, he's got various indicators for power, and just to keep it very short, it seems to operate better when he isn't the main guy at the top. So there's that parivartana of the first house, 12th house, the Sun-Venus involvement, Sun with his debilitation lord and all that. Saturn as the A5 lord in the 7th, the lord of the Gatika Lagna, Jupiter as the Darakaraka. All these are pointing to him being in power behind the throne, because it's in partnership, it's in support of someone else. And so essentially the way I interpret this is that whoever he is with becomes the king. So he did this for Obama, and he's doing the same for Kamala Harris. And if she runs in 2024, I think she's going to be a formidable candidate. If they, So coming to Trump, and this is the last point I want to make, we know that the Gatika Lagna is with Saturn and Venus in the 12th house, and that's, that is the real source of power for him. It is the Darakaraka and Putrakaraka combination as well. So, people talk about Donald Trump as, Russian spy and what if, but no one talks about the wife. No one talks about the 12th house foreign influences that are coming through there. And basically, as long as he is married, he's going to be undefeated. So people talk about Trump, every time, look at his history, every time he has gotten married in the past, his business empire has significantly improved. Because he's essentially benefiting from others losing, okay? Right now, he's in a Jupiter-Saturn period until July next year. So that power given by Saturn is likely to continue. He is also in a Pisces Libra Narayana Dasha. And we know from Libra, the Lord, sorry?
Let's have Trump. You're looking at Donald Trump, right?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, just need to get it up.
Yeah,
so Pisces Libra. I don't know why yours is different. I'm using
Theo.
I don't know why yours is different. But okay, anyway, I've got Pisces Libra because I've also allowed for the sun moon shift and all that and the setting. But okay, so I've got Pisces Libra, and from Libra, this Venus is in the 10th house, and the Shani in Cancer in the 10th house we know is a Raja Yoga. So that is continuing from my point of view, supporting the Raja Yoga. So he's moving into a Jupiter-Mercury period in July 2021 until October 2023. And we see Mercury is the ruler of the 11th and the 2nd house is in this chart. It is having that Papakatri of Saturn and Rahu. This for me is just indicating the global financial downturn that, we're all anticipating that is going to be featuring, and he's going to play an important role in that. And then lastly, coming to the election day itself, in recent decades, the election day has...
Election day, can you tell me?
3rd of November, 2020.
Okay, 3rd November 2020. Go on.
Yeah. So election day in the US, the last, I've gone back to from the Jimmy Carter election up to the present, looking at the election days. And the election days, recently have all been on Mangalavara, all been on Tuesdays. So outright, we can say the candidate, and historically this is true, the candidate with the stronger Mars tends to dominate, has tended to win in the majority of the time. You can go back and look at that for yourself.
Okay.
And you can see here in this chart, on the election day, I'm only caring about the Varesha, I'm not caring about anything else. So on the election day, Mangala is having an exchange with Ketu. And I find these parivartanas that happen with the Varesha on election day to be very, very important, because they tell you because Varesha is the one that is holding the Agni. So whichever candidate is having a stronger Ketu is going to dominate. So you can see here that this Mangala Ketu exchange, first of all, is indicating the social unrest and other sort of underhanded strategies to grab or hold onto power that a lot of people are expecting and that I think will happen. And you know, Mangala is an enemy to Mercury, and we have this postal service problem and all that. So all these things are being set into place.
Going to the elections, which we hadn't, our discussion was only for Kamala Harris and Biden. But
oh, okay.
I
So
think
because I'm tying the Ketu Mangala Ketu Rahu shift into this because it's happening as part of the election story. So the last point, the Ketu transit over Biden's Lagna and the 8th house from his moon.
yeah, I know it's quite remarkable.
It will be over Trump's moon.
Even Kamala Harris, you know, as a Taurus Lagna, he also has the transit.
Yes, but for Kamala Harris, see, if Kamala Harris was, my feeling is, if Kamala Harris was running against Donald Trump, my feeling is that if Kamala Harris was running against Donald Trump, she would win.
Well,
because the Venus is on her side very strongly. Biden's Venus, I mean, there's a Parivartana, whatever, up, down is happening.
This is in Parivartana, and then the sun goes into zero Digbala. So Venus becomes in Marana, and the sun goes into zero Digbala, which can be, you know, a bit of a fall, really. So I think we need to, that's another analysis.
Yes.
Anyway,
so the last point was that the Ketu transit into Scorpio will happen before election day. And that is going to be the 8th house from Biden's moon and 8th house from Kamala's moon. As moon is important because the Karaka for Aruda. Okay, and it's the people, it's the juice, it's the flower, it's the popularity.
And have Israel speak. Israel, you're the only one.
Oh, sorry, I think my connection is but anyway, I'm at the end. That's all I wanted to say.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you, Naicker.
That's all I wanted to say. Basically, I think that that's it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, my connection is getting cut off, so it's fine.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. So Israel, what's your verdict?
Okay,
what's my verdict? Really, I think we are just kind of like analyzing, and I think we got a Gemini version perspective, and the, you know, the D5 divisional chart, which has been quite remarkable.
Yeah, it's been so interesting. Thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah. So Israel, what do you reckon? I know you feel that this is Kamala Harris's chart, and unfortunately, either you can I can stop sharing my screen, or you.
No, that's fine. The things that I noticed from the Vedic, looking at it from the Vedic perspective or side of it, is that I felt, and I did read her sort of like her history and autobiography and how she grew up and stuff, and I felt that the Gemini rising was really was really fitting. She's also got Rahu there also as well on the Lagna as well, and also in her, I believe in her D9, Rahu is there also on the Lagna as well, which I thought was something. Again, if you give her Gemini rising, she's got Rahu. She should have Rahu in Libra, I believe, also on the Lagna too. Which I thought was immensely powerful, and shows somebody who's really, if you read her, how she's grew up, very intelligent, somebody, she's been in, studied many different things, and also with the 10th house, it gives the Pisces 10th house, Jupiter ruled, and she did study law. So it's ruled by Guru. We know Guru very often will signify things like law, and she was a district attorney, and so on and so forth. Also, just taking on what Paul said earlier on, with the Atmakarka being Mars, and Mars being in Cancer in her second house. you know, that one of her lessons is to learn about, you know, the violence, or, you know, not being violent and stuff. It's quite interesting because a lot of her history in regards of the when she was attorney district judge and so on, you know, she was dealing with a lot of issues that were to do with crime and violence, and, you know, very martial kind of orientated you know, subjects. So I feel that we do see that Atmakarka definitely, you know, definitely coming into play, you know, in her life. So that was I was just saying that I thought she was a Gemini Lagna, you know, from the Vedic. She's definitely Gemini Lagna, or ascendant in the Western, you know, for sure. You know, somebody who's very bright, very intelligent, very articulate, somebody who dresses very well. You know, all the kind of descriptions that we give to somebody who is, because I believe the rising nakshatra is Migrasa, right? I think it's, if it's Gemini, I think it's like Migrasa. So these are all to do with, she's got that deer, you know, that deer path energy, and again we see that if you look at her.
Sorry, yeah, let me just go back to. I thought I had. Yes, her rising sign is Mrigashira. I think it is.
Yes. So that's the deer. That's the deer's head, correct? So
Yes.
You know, which is very much connected with somebody who's, you know, extremely very knowledgeable, who's, you know, somebody who's always, you know, very, very intellectual, very, you know, very often they reach very honorable positions, you know, obviously, which she's got. But I don't feel, I believe that it's a good time for her at this present moment. Also as well, in terms of her Vimshottari Dasha, I can't remember, but I believe she's in Rahu. I think she's in a Rahu period.
Yes, she is. I will tell you.
Rahu Mercury. I think it's Rahu Mercury. So again, that again for me shows again her again being nominated as vice president to Joe Biden. And again, that Rahu being on her Lagna, and also even the Rahu also being on her Lagna in her Navamsha chart as well, indicating that, and again, the Mercury in you know, in her in the Rashi chart, again, if she's got you know, Gemini Lagna, the Mercury is in Libra in the 5th house, which is a Trikona house, which is a very good house. Which I feel, you know, is giving her the power, it's giving her the promotion, it's giving her the good fortune for her to really move and press forward and move forward, and for fortunate things to be able to happen for her. So I feel that she's in a very, very good, you know, position at this precise moment. And I also think what's quite interesting also as well with Joe Biden, he's in a Jupiter Vimshottari Dasha, but he's in Jupiter Rahu. So there's something Rahu going on with both of them. I think there's a very strong Rahu energy that's quite present with her and Joe Biden at this precise moment, and very also quite a strong Mars, on, you know, also as well. And obviously in Joe Biden's chart, he's got Rahu also in the 10th house. So I believe that yes, this is a great time for them. It really puts them in the limelight. It puts them forward. They are going to be able to achieve, you know, great things and move in very powerful positions, obviously, as we can see. But with Donald Trump's chart, I think it's a tight race, but I feel Trump is going to trump it. And he's you know, he's going to come out also somewhat victorious. And also looking at their charts also from just a you know, slight jump over to the Western perspective, I know for Donald Trump, he's in we have what's known as the perfection years, and he's in a 3rd house perfection, and in his 3rd house in the Western chart, he's got the planet Jupiter there. Now, Jupiter is actually quite well placed in his chart. Both Saturn and Jupiter are quite well placed in his chart because they're in an exaltation mutual reception. So you know, by mutual reception, they're in exaltation. So it's very, very good. So they're in aspects with each other, and plus, so there's a reception there, and they're both. So this tells us that, again, he's likely going to reach great heights. Whereas with Joe Biden, he's actually in a 6th house profection. And the 6th house, although he does have an exalted moon there, this is in the Western, by the way, he does have an exalted moon in Taurus there, which is extremely very helpful. It's the 6th house, and we know the 6th house, both in Western or Vedic, are not necessarily the best of houses. It's connected with, you know, enemies. It's in Western, it's known as the house of also bad fortune, illnesses, disease, you know, all kind of things kind of going somewhat against you. So I feel that it's going to be an extremely tight race. But Trump does, you know, nick it. You know, he'll probably win just by like a majority or something of that nature. But it definitely puts Kamala Harris and Joe Biden definitely in very, very powerful, you know, spotlights. It gives them a lot of power to be able to maneuver and make certain decisions. But in terms of getting the crown, I don't feel that you know that there's enough there for them to grab that crown.
I think we all have agreed that it's a wonderful setup for Kamala.
Yes,
You know,
oh, most definitely.
And I also think that, you know, for Kamala Harris, somehow I think I'm with you, Israel, on all the points. I do though think that if we take Gemini Lagna,
Yes.
her Atmakarka goes in the Navamsh chart, the Karakamsha goes, which is Mars,
Yes.
goes in the 6th house. Now, typically,
Yes.
you know, I would say that a 6th house Atmakaraka or Karakamsha can give a lot of health issues and even mental health issues. So it's usually a taboo. It's like a no-no. But there is a parivartana between Mars and Ketu in her Navamsha. Now, now Atmakarakas don't shift signs. They don't, you know, whether it's Karakamsha, they will not, you know, like normal planets, they won't go. If there is a parivartana, they won't, Ketu won't come in the 6th and Mars won't go in the 7th.
In the 7th, right.
It will just swap signs. So Mars will be still in Aries, as behaving in Aries in the 6th house, and Ketu will be in Pisces. Now the trouble with that is, this is all very powerful and fine, you know, the Mars Ketu thing. But I think if that Mars is in 6th house as a Karakamsha, there may be definitive health issues. And so, you know,
I think also, Sonal, something that I intuited looking at the charts was that I think her health issues may arise as a consequence of the battle, the political.
Right.
You know, like I think there are underlying health issues that she has to deal with in terms of her karmic journey in this lifetime. But I think what's going to trigger it,
absolutely,
this political battle.
And it's interesting that the Rahu in as a Amatya Karaka would make more sense in because it's Bhava Vargottama. That means it's same. It's in Lagna, Rashi chart, Rahu, and as well as in Navamsh. So that's like Bhava Vargottama, you know. So, and that's her Amatya Karaka. So definitely there is a very strong push for that. But I'm still not quite convinced, you know, because she, with her massive health, because Karakamsha in the 6th house is pretty massive.
It's like health issues from the beginning.
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite convinced about that. But I'm willing to kind of, you know, go along with
the jury's out. The jury's out.
And even in her Rashi chart, Mars still rules the 6th house anyway, because you know, she's Gemini rising, so she's got a Scorpio there in ruling the you know, so Mars is still the lord of the. However, in the Navamsha, Mars is there in the 6th and can exchange places with Ketu, but Mars in the 6th also, it can be very good. This is one of the reasons why even in Western astrology, the 6th house is actually the house of joy for Mars. He quite likes it there because it can be very good against your, you know, your enemies, your opponents. It gives you the energy to be able to fight and defeat illnesses, diseases, and also fight off, you know, even like powerful opponents and stuff like that. So that Mars could actually perhaps maybe work in her favor. Also as well, perhaps is she...
No, we should actually have used the Kevala Vimshotriya for her because that Mangala is the Shubhapati also.
Yeah, and it's the the Shubhapati is the Atmakarka, absolutely. So
Yeah.
I think we all agree that she's like going to be
She's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just waiting to pop out.
and I think she would definitely be the one of the first presidents, you know, from kind of, she's got like woman president, and as well as, you know,
Yeah. I think who was saying this in the beginning? Was it John, or I think it was John who was talking about masculine and feminine, and I can see that in her chart. You know, the strong, you know, Surya and Mangala because of Parivartana in exchange with the two feminine girls, Venus and the Moon, and it's like a very strong sort of, she's bringing the two together kind of.
Yes, yeah. And I also think that that's the dynamic, the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris dynamic that's underpinning, you know, very deep way.
It's what the collective needs in America.
Yeah, it's archetypal. It's archetypal.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, no, very interesting. And also, there's also, I know also of, with also Kamala Harris, looking again at her chart, she has Venus in the, again, if she's got, if you give her the Gemini Lagna, she's got Venus also in the 3rd in Leo. And they speak extensively about her love and her connection with one of her sisters. And, you know, the 3rd house we know is the house of siblings also as well. So
it's
that was also another...
Actually, Venus is her Brattrikaraka.
Right.
It's her big day.
Yeah. Her sister's also gone into law, by the way.
She has.
Oh. Yes, her younger sister's also in law. In law.
Right. But there seems to be a very strong connection with her sister and you know, a kind of energy that you would, you know, affiliate with, you know, Venus being in the 3rd house. And
she's fought for, you know, that Surya debilitated in Parivartana with the Venus. She's fought for, and this is why I put the Sun in the 6th house. Was she fought for when she got it in her historical case? She was strong against child prostitution. That's what she made her success on, was fighting the sexual.
Yes.
Yeah,
and that was a thing that Parivartana is very potent.
The other thing is her Arud. If you notice her Arud, whether it's Gemini or if it is Taurus, if it is Taurus, there's 2 Aruds. And either or, one of her Aruds is Aquarius, right? Can everyone notice that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Both of them, they come to the same axis.
Yes, exactly.
I looked at their Davic paths, their Davitas.
Yeah.
And Dharma Davita are 2, they're Saturn and Rahu.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the other thing is, what's interesting is, from her Aquarius Arud, which I think is getting activated at the moment when Shani, for the next few years, because, and so her entire image is going to completely change. And
so we're going to see a big,
huge, and
big.
Yeah, and her 11th house from Arud has got Ketu, an exalted Ketu, which is very, very, very strong, which is why she's like this, like power force, you know, out of the blue she'll come and she'll just wing it, and we wouldn't even know what. It's a very Ketu energy, and
Here's an interesting thought.
yeah,
Okay. Close to David is Venus.
yeah,
The Mahavira is Atmakarka.
absolutely, and the ninth house,
Yes, interesting.
Yeah.
and the ninth house is also the protection from the Arud, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Surya and Mercury is trining that Arud Lagna in Aquarius. So
In
there is
Aquarius.
it's like a blessing. Any planet ninth from the Arud will absolutely bless you, whether
Yeah.
it's like a Upagraha or anything, you know. And this Surya is in Parivartana with the Lagna Lord Venus, if we
Yes.
the Lagna Lord, but it's absolutely powerful.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you think that this Ketu, because it's the second lord from the Aruda in the 11th, is the Saka as well? You know,
Yeah.
is that it's like a Ganesha? You know, well, Ketu exalted is Matsya.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of blessings that Rahu will propel her into power.
Mm.
Total
Yes.
power.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, it's
Good.
been absolutely fantastic and fascinating. Thank you all. You know, it's been like,
Yeah.
wow. You know, it's much nicer to speak when, you know, there's a lot of sort of different ideas and views. And but I think we're going to see more of our I think next 2 months are going to be pivotal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Clear your schedules, you know.
The Mars going retrograde. I mean, there's so much of Mars energy. Trump has got Mars energy.
Yeah.
Right? And so does Biden, Scorpio Lagna, and so does Mars Atmakarka. It's like, you know.
We're having this this Mars going through Gandanta up and down, while we're having Venus going to go through Gandanta up and down.
Yeah.
You know, so it's quite.
It's very Rahu, Venus, Mars energy. You know, a lot of those three planets definitely are really sort of like dictating and showing a lot of energy to like push and pull to, you know, around this you know, upcoming election for sure, definitely.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much all for coming, and
Thank you, Sonal.
you know,
Nice to meet you all again.
yeah, likewise. And yeah, so we will see next month. What's
Yes.
you know, and I hope to see you. Thank you very much. Om Namah
Definitely.
Shivaya. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.